Is this my tool to advance the slides?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. This is a really short update. I only asked for a short slot of time. We already covered a lot of information the last time we were all together, and a lot of the people in this room have participated at some of the other events. So hopefully we'll get through this quickly, and if there's any questions, we can ask after or while we're mingling. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm working on loan from Matrox to Ames. I spent a lot of time with the Pro EV working group in Ames. I'm also recently a member of the board of directors of Ames, and I work closely with Brad and the VSF and AMWA as well. All right, so our agenda is we're gonna look at some of the customer side issues involving IPMX. So a bit of a recap on the market demand. We'll also look at some training information, an update on that. We'll take a quick look at the use of the IPMX trademark, so how to call a product IPMX. Although Jack already covered a little bit of this, we'll talk about what's going on at NAB, and then I'll end it with a little bit of an equipment update, just so that you have a perspective on what's going on. All right, so beginning with demand, everything that we're all doing here always comes from a point of origin where real customers have real problems, and you know, it's no different for IPMX. So IPMX began with SMPTE 2110 products being used in various different customer implementation areas, and there were starting points like the US Congress, the financial sector in New York, some universities that had 2110 systems, and more recently some hospitals and defense sector initiatives where 2110 is being used, but a few additional things were lacking for the customers to be completely satisfied with where they wanted to go with their systems. Although they were happy with everything in 2110, they also wanted some other things. So that's the point of origin for IPMX, and there is quite a fair bit of equipment out there that is 2110 stuff that is trying to implement IPMX as it goes at those sites, and so there's a pretty good feedback loop with customers in the field. As with a lot of things, there's a lot of confidentiality agreements and things like that, so I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about, but hopefully when we look at some of the equipment updates and things like that, you'll get a sense of what's going on. So the three most important categories of the market demand for IPMX, there's actually a lot of different sub-ones, smaller ones, but the main chorus, there's three areas that are predominantly the main impetus for IPMX. One, it's people that are building 2110 systems, and they want to add just some ingredients of what's in IPMX. They don't need the full IPMX set of specifications, but they like some elements. Like for example, when building a large public venue with a synchronized system using 2110, using NMOS, some people would like the opportunity to mix equipment from different vendors and encrypt the content and have a mechanism for resolving a privacy key exchange between different pieces of equipment from different companies. That simple thing might be enough of a reason for people to take a look at IPMX. So I call that the 2110 crowd that wants one additional thing, and you know, from Jack Douglas's presentation, you see there's 14 TRs in TR10. So if any one of those covers something that a customer is interested in, that fits in that first category there. The second biggest one is the Pro EV market itself. There's been a chorus from the market saying that a lot of their infrastructures are migrating from traditional baseband to IP-based high-performance media infrastructure, similar to a broadcast facility migrating from SDI to 2110. But in the Pro EV world, there's a few other things that their infrastructure products can do. They can handle USB, they can handle protected content. There's just a few ingredients there that are a little bit different than what it was the original scope of 2110. So IPMX has put a lot of investment into standardizing some of those areas as well. And then the last category, and very important one, is there's been a very, very consistent observation by people who are migrating their organizations to IP-based media systems that they've introduced a new problem where it was previously possible to, oops, I went too fast there. Where it was previously possible to connect different equipment types to each other using HDMI cables. Now that they're in IP, their different equipment types are implementing IP differently. Some of them are doing 2110, some of them are doing, a Pro AV protocol, some of them are doing things the consumer electronics and PCIT way with, codecs like HEVC and protocols like SRT. So the bridge between products at the baseband level is no longer intact when migrating everything to IP. So on the Pro AV side, there's two things that were really attractive to build on 2110 for AV standardization. One is bandwidth, so it was not lost on the market that obviously Ethernet bandwidth provides a much bigger headroom than the traditional hardwired infrastructure that they were working with. And the other one is USB. So 2110 provides a proof that they could achieve all of their performance requirements, all of their synchronization requirements, et cetera, with an IP-based solution. But they still need a few additional things like USB, and IPMX addresses that. So this is the thing I was just saying, the connection that existed between equipment. So the three main types of equipment: professional equipment, like your mixing products, your media processing products, with your AV signal management equipment, the things that wire rooms from room to room and from displays in rooms and speakers in rooms and microphones and things like that. And of course, the largest base of assets, the corporate PC IT assets, your Zoom PCs, your users' wireless devices, users' laptops, etc. So it was not that difficult to connect these things together. And in the worst case, if a mini converter was required, they were cheap, reliable, no skills required, and every flavor was abundantly available. In IP, this is what the picture is. There's professional equipment that is doing its thing, AV signal management equipment is doing its thing, and corporate PC IT equipment is doing its own thing. The corporate PC IT stuff in particular has demands that are very important, such as USB and wireless, and obviously the ability to operate media in software-based workflows and to use a standard network interface. So these connections are what IPMX is playing a role in trying to restore, at least sometimes. So the two main ingredients is standardization, so creating enough of a bridge to relink these things to one another. And it's not enough to just have standardization, because there's still some differences in the type of media used, and another critical ingredient is a new category of product, which is the same things the converters were doing before in baseband, but now being able to do it in IP to IP conversions. So being able to convert media from, let's say, uncompressed to a mezzanine codec, or a mezzanine codec to a high compression codec, or whatever, or being able to deal with different synchronization, so bringing media from a synchronized network to a network that doesn't really require PTP is not that difficult. Going in the other direction is more difficult, so being able to adjust the content so that you can bring content between those two worlds. And of course, protocol conversion, so being able to use different protocols in the market, being able to mix networks of AES-67 products and 2110 products and IPMX products and NDI products and Dante products, etc. So the next update is on training. So we have been working on this issue as a collective between AIMS and the VSF and AMWA, and a quick update of what's going on in 2025 is AIMS has started a mission to create a free online training after reviewing the trainings available from SDVOE and Dante and NDI and several other popular protocols in the market. A game plan was established of what will be probably between a 12 and 15-hour course that hopefully will meet the criteria of AVIXA for CTS credits. And the goal is for this content to be produced and be made available for free online, where people can navigate themselves through the content and obtain their evidence that they've completed the course. In addition to that, we're still in formal and informal engagements between organizations and working with trainers and consultants to figure out how to roll out more formal training. There is demand for people that want to get trained on IPMX. There are a few companies that are now advertising job openings for people that have skills with 2110, AES67, NMOS, and IPMX. So that's leading to people coming to AIMS and saying, how do I get this IPMX training? It's a job requirement now. So we have to solve that. We're trying to collaborate with our sister organizations to figure out the best way to provide that kind of training. The next topic is the IPMX trademark, so calling products IPMX. So I'll start by talking about some of the goals of IPMX at the brand level of IPMX. So one is to have a clear description of mandatory features. So what do I have to support in my product in order to call it IPMX? A clear description of the optional capabilities. So if something is optional in IPMX, how do we make that information clear and understandable to a large mixed population of users and integrators? Clear profiles. So the profiles have to be clear enough that interoperability is actually achieved. Clear labeling requirements. And Jack covered in some very good detail a clear test plan to cover all of the profiles and all of the optional capabilities. And lastly, a mechanism to audit or make official which products have met the requirements above. So this is all quite advanced, and all of this is in progress. Why don't we take a look at what some of this is going to look like? Oh yeah, and of course the balance that we're trying to achieve with IPMX is a plug-and-play experience for at least the baseline experience of IPMX, but providing the features and scalability to allow system builders to build the kind of systems that they need and mix IPMX with the other media and protocols that they need to use. So let's begin with the IPMX profiles. These are, I want to stress this, not static. This is an evolving subject. So there's a starting point for IPMX profiles. The profiles are a baseline, but obviously vendors can exceed the profile. So you can meet an IPMX profile, but then do more with your product. That's obviously perfectly okay. A product must support and pass tests for at least one IPMX profile to be called IPMX. Obviously, if people implement the VSF TR10 specifications and have something in their product where the media only works within that brand, it doesn't have any interoperability whatsoever with other IPMX products. It doesn't qualify as an IPMX product. There has to be at least a baseline experience of connectivity to other stuff in the market. Again, it's perfectly okay to exceed that. Let's take a codec, for example. Let's say a product supports one of the codecs that other products are using, and it's one of the profiles, but it supports another codec as well, then that's fine. You can call that product IPMX because there is a mode in which that product can interoperate with other things. So the target profiles so far are uncompressed video, JPEG XS video, HEVC video, AVC video, and audio PCM. Those are the 5 profiles for media. And there will be additional tests that will be developed in the VSF for a JPEG XS option with the TDC profile of JPEG XS, also known as flawless imaging profile, so that 444 media and desktop content can be better handled under 1 gigabit per second. This leverages one of the TR10 specifications that makes room for variable bitrate codecs. And the other option is the main 44410 profile of HEVC. So that's a list of 7 options, five of which are official profiles, 2 of which are options where you can exceed the target profile. So this is what the picture looks like for media. In terms of IPMX capabilities, same as for profiles. This is not static, this is evolving. And the difference between capabilities and profiles is that capabilities are not mandatory. But if you want to use the labeling of the capabilities, for example, if you want to say that your product supports HDCP the IPMX way, then you will have to pass the IPMX HDCP test. So you don't have to support the capabilities, but if you want to use the labeling, then you have to be conformant to the specifications. So the target capabilities so far are HDCP, where the VSF TR10 HDCP key exchange protocol is used to exchange the HDCP keys. Another capability is the privacy encryption protocol. So this is what allows users, for example, to load privacy keys in different devices from different brands and form an encrypted tunnel between different products. HDR and USB, these are obvious ones, and CEC. Those are the initial, Jed, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is what we covered in the last meeting with Andy, as the 5 main initial capabilities. So Jack already covered this, the IPMX interop, so there's already been several with different companies participating in each event so far. The next one is in a few weeks, and right now the AIMS and the VSF are working on some provisional test badges to support the progress of those organizations working on the interops. This is going to be very similar, as Jack was saying, to JTNM tested badges, a very similar concept. Our stretch goal is to have a final test plan for the profiles and capabilities by IBC. I call it a stretch goal because there's we're going to see what happens at the next interop. If everything goes extremely well and we don't uncover anything, then perhaps this is achievable by IBC. If we need to extend it, we'll extend it. We're not going to rush having good test plans that manufacturers can use. And then our stretch goal is to have an official IPMX test plan, audit plan, and labeling system, and you know, a proper, clear set of information for how to use the IPMX trademark before ISC 2026. So those are the targets right now. If you remember my presentation from last year, we've already slipped a little bit from our targets last year, but this is normal as we test more and more products together. So this is what the labeling looks like. So you know, obviously a product can do many things, manufacture a special sauce, all of their great capabilities. And then at some point on the label, there should be some type of an identifier of what IPMX profile or profiles plural are supported. This is what determines the minimum baseline media interoperability between different IPMX products. And if applicable, if the product happens to support some of the optional capabilities, then that could be listed on the label as well. And that's what determines the user experience for some popular features, meaning if I care about HTTP interoperability between brand A and brand B, I will look for that label. All right, NAB. As Jack said, there's been a big interest in Europe and in North America to talk about the bridges that can be built between professional broadcast equipment and AV signal distribution equipment. There's been a lot of buzz about mixing media servers and LED walls and vision mixers and audio equipment, and there's been quite a lot of work done on both continents to advance subjects in this area. ISC, for those of you that were there, keeps growing. It's getting quite busy. They added 2 more entire halls at the last one, so this is a growing show. And NAB and AVIXA have been talking about what to do in North America to tap into that vibe. At least as of 2025, the National Association of Broadcasters is at least doing the following. They're going to be upping significantly the exposure to Pro AV topics at NAB, and this includes more training sessions, more access to demonstrations, more access to people who will be representatives from various organizations as experts for people to meet and greet, and they're going to use all of their marketing channels to communicate this, come see NAB for, your latest, high-end Pro AV interest. So that's one of their big focuses this year. In terms of what AIMS and the VSF and AMWA are participating directly in, there's an interoperability demo in a 20 by 20 booth in typical IP showcase form. So it's going to look like similar shows in the past, but instead of having meeting areas and other things like we've had at the IP showcase in the last few years, it's going to be more like the year where we had that big 2110 interop push. So that's what it's going to be like this year. It'll be an interop demo that features IPMX and 2110 equipment in an interop in the IP showcase. There's a tech stage with, I'm sorry if it says 10 presentations here. I was corrected earlier that it's actually 16 presentations on the tech stage. We already have, I think it's 25 to 30 submissions, so we're going through that list right now. Don't worry if you've submitted something and it's not going to make it on the tech stage. We also have provided at no charge by the National Association of Broadcasters. They've given us a large room on the 3rd floor of the West Hall where we can conduct additional presentations and trainings, and where there's also going to be time blocked off where representatives of AIMS, VSF, and AMWA can be there to meet with visitors and answer any questions about not only IPMX, but NMOS and AES-67 and related standards. Okay, so this is my last section. It's an equipment update. I tried to structure it in a way that shows the link between the point of origin for IPMX from the user perspective and what's been happening. So I took a little bit of an AV slant to this, but that's just on purpose to help with the thinking here. So I looked at the 2 main software experiences, and I put the IPMX equipment ecosystem in that frame of thinking. So obviously in Pro AV, the 2 main types of software that exist are environments where it's routing software dominant. So if you think of things like the Crestron AV routing environment or the QSYS AV routing environment, that's what I mean by routing software dominant. And then there's the processing software dominant. So here there's some equipment on the system that is doing media manipulation, and the users care more about how to get stuff into their media processing and out of their media processing to their target destinations like speakers or screens or whatever. So here you can see the system is filling in a lot more than people think. I broke up this equipment ecosystem into a few sections: low level, sources, conversion layer, processing layer, and outputs. And you see that everything in black here is either already announced by some company or is going to be announced shortly, like NAB. Anything in red here is expected, meaning there are companies building equipment in that red stuff that have either already publicly said something positive to IPMX or are already publicly claiming that they are planning to support IPMX and their roadmap. And then I put in purple where there's conversations about IPMX, but there hasn't actually been any public announcements yet, and that includes ASIC. So there are several companies making Pro AV ASICs, and although all of them have been exploring IPMX, none of them have publicly committed to supporting it yet in their chip roadmaps, but they're all definitely reading the specifications. And so let's take a look at this. So sources, so the stuff in red is cameras and audio sources like microphones. And there's also PC-based sources. So there's already some NIC cards and smart NIC cards that have publicly identified that they either already support or plan to support IPMX. There's already several companies that have introduced software that can do IPMX encoding or decoding. And there are already some companies that have publicly stated that they're building some virtual capture mini drivers. What that means is if you can bring an IPMX flow into your computer, there's an automatic hookup to your favorite application. So that usually takes the form of a direct show filter or a GStreamer API or something of that type. So several different mini drivers are already announced, and more are being announced all the time. Conversion layer, this is mini converters and throw down boxes and everything that's either a small converter or a big converter for bulk conversions. So this is supporting all of the media profiles that we know of right now. So uncompressed, mezzanine codecs, high compression, they've all already been announced or are being announced. And gateways, IP to IP gateways, so things that can convert from one thing to another. And there's already been several gateways that have been announced. There's HDCP to, HD base T to IPMX and IPMX to HD base T. There's within IPMX media conversion capabilities, so being able to go from uncompressed to mezzanine codecs or mezzanine codec to high compression and these different combinations. And already several companies have announced things between protocols, so being able to go between NDI and IPMX and NDI. So I expect there to be more simple and bulk IP to IP gateways being introduced in 2025 as well. When we look at the processing layer, some of the media server companies have made public statements about their intention to support IPMX. And some non-PC based equipment as well, video wall processors, live production equipment, mixers, presentation switchers, all already publicly discussing IPMX. On the output side, we have quite a lot of activity on the display sides, and in particular starting with the specialized displays. So most of the LED wall tile processor companies either already support IPMX or have publicly stated that they're adding 2110 and IPMX support to their display technology. There's also smart display modules from more than one company that have support for IPMX. Some of them are done in software, so it's basically an Intel-based CPU module with software IPMX, and it's in the form factor of an SDM module. Others are doing it with hardware processing, but the market is covered with many options, and so this is now starting to get promoted by the companies that market SDM-compatible displays, including projectors and commercial displays. It's going to be very visible at NAB. There will be several companies talking about this. You already saw a little bit of it at ISC, but there's going to be a lot more coming. I should point out that the growth of the LED wall market is expanding very rapidly, and this includes some new marketing offerings. I'm sure you've seen these fixed size LED walls. So this is where the LED wall is not in whatever shape you want. It's in a more templatized offering, usually in a typical aspect ratio like 16:9 or 21:9. So those are all-in-one LED walls. There isn't a two-piece solution where there's a tile processor and the tiles as two separate offerings. The all-in-ones have everything in the display. All of those are either supporting SDM module or some form of IP input with 2110 or IPMX support. So those all-in-ones are moving in this direction as well. And then there's also some of the mainstream commercial displays that are saying things about their roadmap commercial displays supporting IPMX as well. So this is a good glimpse of, there's already a lot of things that this has impacts on. You don't need a lot of IPMX products to be able to build systems that have a lot of equipment that works together. When you consider the AS67 equipment, the 2110 equipment, and the IPMX equipment that is already announced, there's quite a lot that can be built already. So that's it. That was my brief update. And I'll turn it over to any questions from anyone.
Okay, any questions, comments for Sam?